Okay, everybody, I'm back out in the shop, completing my little series on some basics of bass fishing, my top 5 lures or techniques to get beginners into bass fishing, and some little tips and tricks. But anyway, we've talked about a Texas rig worm. We talked about a stick worm, a weightless stick worm. We've talked about a spinner bait. We talked about a drop shot. Okay, all really great ways to get bites and catch a lot of fish, especially for those just beginning, whether you're fishing from the bank, a dock, a small boat, a big boat, in a lake, a river, where it doesn't matter. Those techniques or baits just get bit. But, you know, when I first started, right, I wanted to see the fish bite, right? Topwater is what gets a lot of us into bass fishing, whether it's on a frog, a buzz bait, a walking bait. There's so many different types of baits available for us today, but a pop-R or a popper is what I originally started out fishing with way back in the day when I was first learning about fishing up in Minnesota with my uncles and my dad. And this here is actually one of the first topwater baits I've ever had. This is a Rebel popper. Okay, you can see it's Fire Tiger. I still have it in my box today. This is my box of just poppers. So I have a really good selection of them, from small ones to big ones, with just variety of different colors and sizes, shapes, all that stuff. Some with feathers, some without. But like I mentioned to begin with, all in all, a very effective way to catch bass. Okay, this can mimic a shad, a bluegill, a sunfish, a perch, certain types of dragonflies or mayflies or bugs. It entices bites. Unlike a lot of other lures that are really specific on what you're trying to mimic, this just draws a lot of attention from smallmouth bass, spotted bass, and especially largemouth bass. When you're talking, you know, in water depths of anywhere from, I'd say, 6 inches out to 7 feet, especially if you have some good clear water, these poppers are really effective. If you go on to tacklewarehouse.com, they have a really good selection of all the different poppers, different sizes, different shapes, different price points, different colors. But what I would recommend, if you don't have any of these style baits right now, you want to start off with a shad color. Okay, this here's a Chartreuse shad color. I got some bone colors, like this one here. I got a perch color. I mean, you can see the different variety. I got a baby bass color in there. But day in, day out, what you're trying to do is mimic those shad. Okay, I would say 75% of the time. So you want something more bait fish, shad type related. And there it is right there. Chartreuse shad's really good, or like I mentioned, the bone color. Those are really effective choices, from really clear water to kind of that moderate stained. And like I mentioned, that original size, so not too big, not too small, is going to be really effective, whether you're fishing on a bait casting outfit or a spinning rod outfit, which I'm going to get into that at a later video. The different applications and the different styles, the different ways you fish, different baits with that. But essentially, that's it right there. So all this bait, all you're going to want to do with this bait is cast it out. Like I mentioned, it's really effective if you're having a hard time throwing a bait caster. A spinning reel is a really effective way to fish it, because these baits are lighter. Okay, they don't weigh as much as a heavier jig or a Texas rig setup. So you might want to start out with a spinning reel if you're just learning. And what we talked about in one of the other videos was the type of line to fish different baits. You're going to want to fish this bait on a nylon line or a monofilament. Okay, recommend anything from 12 pound all the way up to 20 pound, depending on how heavy the bait is or the size of your popper. I like throwing a lot of 16. This here is Super Natural Sunline. Like I mentioned, it's nylon monofilament, meaning it's going to help that bait float. Okay, if you had fluorocarbon, because fluorocarbon sinks, it's going to pull the nose of this bait down, and it's not going to pop or spit as effectively as when you have nylon or monofilament. So the knot I recommend, much like all my other knots, I virtually tie the same knot, except for a couple technique specific things, but you're going to want to let me start over. Take your line, okay, double it over. You're going to have a little tiny loop right there, okay? You're going to stick that through the eye of the bait, much like so. Now you're going to end up with that, okay? So you have a loop end, and you have your tag end with your main line. You're just going to make an overhand knot, okay? You're going to come back through with your loop, okay? So now you have that, and you have this big loop. You're going to take the big loop, go around the whole bait, okay? Once you do, you're going to end up with like that, and keep all that tight. You're going to want to wet it and then pull the tag line, and that's going to create your Palomar knot. There you have it. Clip the tag end off, and there you go. That's super strong knot, and like I mentioned, the monofilament. Now, let's talk about how you fish this bait. Very, very simple, okay? When my kids were young, and I was teaching actually my wife how to fish for the first time when we were in high school, so many moons ago, essentially cast it out, and you're simply just going to take your rod and just pop, 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 let it sit, and just repeat, okay? The fish are going to tell you what they want, whether it's faster or slower, but rule of thumb is pop, 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 3 times, let it sit. Let the rings go away, especially if you're in calm water. Let those rings dissipate, and then pop, pop, pop. And this bait in the water is going to spit water and make a unique sound, which draws those fish, and they just can't stand it. I mean, you know, like I told you the story to begin with. That bait right there has been in my boat since I was probably 13 years old. Of course, I've changed the hooks, and you can see I've kind of had to recolor it. But to this day, I can still catch bass on this bait. So really effective way to catch a lot of fish. Poppers, pop-Rs, popping baits. Like I mentioned before, if you go on to tacklewarehouse.com, you can simply type that into the search bar at the top, and it's going to bring you to the whole page of, like I mentioned, different sizes, different colors, different price points, different. Everything's different. But day in and day out, like I mentioned, good color shad color or baitfish color is really what you're going to want to start out with. I think the only reason I had this, because my crazy uncles probably figured, you know, that I would lose one of their good ones, so they gave me this old Rebel Pop-R, which I caught a lot of fish on this bait. So really, really cool. Hope that helps. And like I mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about, I've had some great comments so far, what's the difference between bait cast setup and a spinning reel setup, or open face as some people call it. So we're going to go into that next. Hopefully this helps. And if you guys got any questions or comments, please let me know. Be willing to share more information. And hope you guys are having a good one. Talk to you soon.